All right, welcome back. So to dissect some of those policies and how it will play out in terms of what to expect, we've got some experts here in the studios with us. And Dr. Akin Fakmonda is a former director of Planning, Research and Data Bank, National Agricultural Land Development Authority, that's NALDA. And then sitting beside him is Professor Jonathan Rem, who is of International Economic Relations and also former Acting Assistant Director of Research for the CBN. So, gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
Now, the speech by the president, he did detail some plan in terms of what to expect. But we also did say, look, we needed a lot more breakdown, what to expect, how some of these things will play out. So, but gentlemen, both of you, you've heard and read the president several times. You must have digested all of these things. So let me start with you, Prof. From your expert opinion, because many expect these policies of the president and this government to have a huge impact on the economic situation of Nigerians. Do you see this happening with what he's announced? And how soon, maybe?
Thank you, and good morning again, viewers. And well, we thank God for where we are and what Nigeria needs today. Clearly speaking, there is a reason for palliative. And the president said it when he was campaigning that he's going to remove fuel subsidy. So, and he justified this because there's no basis for subsidy. Me as an economist, subsidy is something which is not acceptable in macroeconomic theory because it's going to affect my indifferent cost consumption analysis. So therefore, if you give me the money, I may know where to actually use the money than actually saying I must consume this because it is subsidized, because that may not be what I wanted to consume. But the present situation in Nigeria now, because I look at the issue of subsidy, let me let you the environment. The environment is where we have monetary and fiscal crisis, where we have inflation, the productive capacity is weakened. We are hearing that companies are relocating from Nigeria at a time when we want to use this company as an opportunity to actually go into African Continental Free Trade Area. These are the kind of pains that affect me personally. At the time we are saying Nigeria will be better in dominating Africa, that's the time when companies are living to be able to use that particular opportunity to benefit another country. And quite a lot of other things are there. Now, again, is this problem of subsidy that came up, which has added to the problem we face in Nigeria. But more importantly, to add to it, particularly to this government, is the crisis that is happening in Nigeria, which obviously our president is the chairman of all the head of state.
Is it going to distract him?
Clearly speaking, he has 24 hours per day to work. And he must, it's compulsory, working in ECOWAS, as you actually talk about my head, he must pay attention to some of the issues coming from ECOWAS. The ECOWAS Commission President will continue to send certain development to him. He just said that, I heard it on the news that the emissary has been sent to Nigeria Republic. I mean, it has to actually be on the directive of the project. It's not a distraction, but part and parcel of the package you must carry along. So these are the issues. But again, the palliative is necessary because Nigerians has always been under a very serious economic crisis in terms of their welfare. And therefore, the palliative is welcome. It's something that is very important. And the president, I believe, when he was actually campaigning and that he's going to remove subsidy, he must have been thinking of the palliative. I think the fault is that he doesn't have to wait for 2 months before this palliative come on board. He doesn't have to wait until we have this Nigerian Labour Congress on the street and then campaigning the other groups to join them before this thing come up. Well, while the address of the president is coming on, at the same time as we progress, I will let you know some of my own position about some of all those issues, which are the content of the palliative. Palliative is very important, but at the same time, we have to look at how to be able to implement them.
Okay, well, we'll look at some of the highlights of that speech soon. But Dr. Fakmonda, so from your perspective, I mean, looking at that, the speech and the points that the president reeled out on a broader perspective, first and foremost, do you see it having an impact, and what kind of impact, and perhaps how soon, if I could ask you as well?
The bottom line is that there's a big disconnect between the political class, the presidents and all these people, and reality on the ground. Simple, when I had 500,000 hectares of land to be developed, no time. It's like saying, I will build Channel TV tomorrow. It takes years to build Channel TV. To do 500,000 hectares of land, people don't even know what an hectare is, how big. That alone just tells me that there's no thinking by his people. Nobody gave him serious input from the Ministry of Agriculture. Then they talk about maize, rice, cassava, wheat. Is that the only thing that will take the whole society to live on? The next 5 years, so we're eating only rice and maize, industrial production, everything. So there's no holistic understanding of the agric sector. And that means the president may not have prepared since he won in February to have set up a panel to look into the issues and produce a project document that is coherent. All we had was just big figures. Our hopes will never be realized, absolutely.
Okay, let's go down to some of the key points in that speech, which that broadcast which he gave. Yes, he said the subsidy was eliminated to redirect funds to public services and away from a select group of individuals. 75 billion will be spent to support manufacturing enterprises with potential for growth and job creation. Let me go to that part that speaks about MSMEs. 125 billion naira will be allocated to support micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises and the informal sector. 200,000 metric tons of grains will be released to households to moderate food prices. 200 billion naira will be invested in cultivating rice, maize, wheat, and cassava to ensure food security. I think that's where you're trying to make a point. But part of the functions of NALDA
then abolished.
Was to ensure that some of these things are addressed. So if he's coming up with this, and we know that we tried with NALDA, maybe you tell us if we succeeded or not. So why do you think then that these funds that he's going to release to cultivate rice, maize, and wheat to ensure food security will not achieve the results?
Look, we are getting money from one pocket. If at all, corruption, we are putting another place, which is corruption too. When you vote 100 billion for agriculture, we don't know what time frame. Is it the next 5, 10 years? We don't know. You just pour money like you just pour rainwater on the ground. The ministry that's supposed to do this is not engineered to do anything.
That is Ministry of
Agriculture. I was there I authored the paper on this president's speech. I went there to the ministry 2 days ago to have the feel whether anybody understands what the president is saying. I couldn't get, in fact, the place like a Pentagon fortress. Too many agencies. This 100 billion voted will be used for overhead costs, for travel, for intra-code.
Can we come to that conclusion yet? Because we have not seen the implementation plan. We've not heard from those experts. So will it be right for us to come to that conclusion without getting to see that blueprint?
I wasn't in government for no reason. I was in government for 27 years. I know how the ministry works. My constituency, primary constituency, even though I retired 20-something years ago, but it's still my area of interest. The way the government works, this announcement in the presidency is just at the presidency. Nationwide, where is the input? There is Horticultural Research Institute, Root Crop Research Institute. There is NIFOR for palm research. So are you going to ignore the way the ministry works? Only those crops now will be funded. All other agencies of government will be abandoned to their fate. They will not have funding. So we just have bureaucracy. And federal government has no land of its own. How can they acquire land between now and March next year from the state governments to get area marked out 500,000 hectares? Is it possible nationwide? Where is the land? Where's the land?
We'll focus on that soon because we'll look at that Ministry of Agric and see how that looks and what to expect in the moment. But Professor Aremu, looking at some of these highlights where the president spoke about his speech and what he intended to do, I think the first part, which Dr. Fakmonda was speaking about, is the very first part, which you have also highlighted, the 200 billion for maize, cassava, and things. He said he's been in government, but you have also been at that financial sector as well, in government. So you could also have an insight into how some of these disbursements and whether or not the money is released get to where they do. Do you share the same view with Dr. Fakmonda?
Well, I think he knows the way things are done over there, and working in the research department of Central Bank, I'm equally privy to understanding of the working system of the government. But over the years, the Central Bank, particularly with what we had under the agric program of the agric, is not the kind of funding that Nigeria wanted. Number one, up to now, such a huge amount of money under the CBN agric program have been invested. It has not come, and that is where his fear is coming from. Look at the point he mentioned in terms of federal government has no land. The land is with the state government. But left to me, it's not the magnitude or the volume of cash that people want to hear now, but the implementation strategy. And let me say this, particularly on the SME. You see, we already have a lot of SMEs. If government is going to do this one, we have an umbrella SME that have all the SMEs together. That was launched later during the end of last year. I was there to make a presentation. I think government should make use of that opportunity so that the fund will only go to those people that are registered. I think they have them up to local government level, right? Even if you're going to be in agric, right? They should be able to target those people. Because enough of money being given out and you don't know where the money is going. And secondly, we need to be very sensitive to that. Secondly, with respect to manufacturing sector, which you just read out, which area of the manufacturing? Is it the one that will have immediate effect on the welfare of the people? Is it the one that we have to supply the consumables in Nigeria? Is it the one that will target ECOWAS and African Continental Free Trade Area? Is it which one? And how will they be selected? Right? So, and then what are some of the problems they were facing because the money should go? And then also, how are they going to structuralize the money in a way that you don't just give the money, but it's going to be as if the World Bank give loan. When World Bank give loan, they make sure they even supply the equipment so that nobody can divert it. So is it that approach that we are going to use? So just as you rightly said, the strategy must actually be in place. We need to know the strategy.
But he talked about having been in government all that while, 27 years. So he's seen several strategies when they come out. And for what he's seen, he says he didn't achieve much.
Yeah, that's, you see, during his own time, quite substantial. In my time, I retired from Central Bank in 1992. And then just as you say, acting as a director, we follow monetary policy to the letter. I remember in one of the meetings in which Olaf have to disagree with the government. And then we come to research department where I work. And my director of research, Enewosu, actually said that, well, this is what government is going, but this is what we are going to do in research. Do we have the same kind of Central Bank today that we tell the government this is the way monetary policy has to be followed? So during my own time, everybody do his work. This company I'm hearing they are folding, I was in charge of 15 of them. They were moving quite well. Whether in Ikeja Industrial Estate, Sansara Industrial Estate, Kanu.
So if I could just jump in, pardon me, what was the disconnect? What was the difference? Because both of you have been in research. And we know research is a lifeblood of success of any organization. So why is it then that at that point, in spite of the research and everything that happened, many of those policies never succeeded, as you highlighted, Dr. Fakmonda?
Well, as I made the point earlier on, I'm not too hard. Actually, our society is not configured for seriousness. We take life too unseriously. This announcement we have now, no institutional member to even find out what happened in the past. If there were, there used to be Green Revolution, there used to be Operation Feed the Nation, there used to be D-Free, then there was NALDA. All these things happened. We are not learning from the experience of what has been. That's the essence of research. You research into what had gone, you now project into the future. Okay, NALDA was established in 1992 to a model after Felder in Malaysia. Felder started in 56, is still on up till now, uninterrupted, 1956. In our own case, we managed NALDA for 8 years and the government of Obasanjo abolished it. Okay, that NALDA, we were trying to develop only 55,000 hectares of land in 5 years. We couldn't achieve more than 35,000 because we have to get land from the state government. It took maybe a year or two to get the approval for the land, to survey it, to do the soil testing. You can't just farm anyhow. So there's no research, no thinking, intellectual rigor into anything we do. We just announce in all aspects.
That's hard to take because, I mean, several people that say they are working very hard to make sure this is happening.
Work.
Could it be that they research, but some of the authorities don't take it on board? Those are two different things. The work has been done by research, but not being implemented. Couldn't that also be part of the scenario?
I gave a report of NALDA closure in 1998. I have a copy, I shared it. Does the government have it? If they read it, they would have been able to design a better program. You
raised concern about the Ministry of Agric. And yes, we do know that DCNG is a challenge, but look at the highlights of the Ministry of Agric, which you have talked about, saying, look, there's a lot of concern there, because that is directly under the purview of the federal government, not the states now, because they will actually go out and implement a lot of those policies. So, yes, you say 1 permanent secretary there, 10 service departments, 11 technical departments, each of the 21 departments are headed by grade level 17 directors, all reporting to the permanent secretary, 11 autonomous agencies, each headed by the managing directors, all director generals, all on consolidated salary scale and equivalent permanent secretaries, and then it goes on 15 research institutes.
Agric, NIFO, NIHOT.
It means we're doing something.
Each one of them.
To get research right.
Yeah, 15 of them with full complement of staff nationwide.
And then Prof has been a vice chancellor. Now there are 3 universities there headed by vice chancellors too, under the same thing.
All this now to spend this 200 billion. And most of the money will go to there because the salary is paid, they are doing nothing. This money comes now for their travels, for extra code. They don't have 1 hectare of land to cultivate, the federal government, with all this bureaucracy.
Wow.
They don't have it. The state government have to approach them before you can find out 100 hectares of land in Bayelsa State. Can you get 100 hectares of land in one location in Bayelsa State, in Rivers State, in Akwa Ibom State?
Difficult.
Can you get it? You can get it in maybe Katsina, but you can't get it in the southern states. So southern states will bog down with this thing.
So what will your solution be? What do you suggest?
See, this centralized agriculture is not it. Farming is farm business, not just to plant maize behind your house. It's a super skyscraper thinking that goes into farming in other countries. We are just joking with agriculture, and we have been joking with all over the years. We just grow 1 hectare there and there. If you want to do plantation agriculture, all these institutes are just idle staff. They are not utilized. I can make both to say it on national television. They will not be consulted. Otherwise, NIFO will just do oil palm in its own area. You know, NIHO will do vegetables in its own area. Root crops will do tubers and root crops in its own area. You have to specialize in ecological areas. There are 5 zones in Nigeria ecologically. The mangrove, the forest, the savanna, the Sudan, the Sahel. Each crop has advantage in each of these 5 areas. But when you decree only maize and rice, cassava and wheat, do we even know what happened to wheat? We grew wheat during Babangida time in the northeast area. Does anybody find out what happened to the wheat program, wheat bread? Even Jonathan was eating wheat bread on television those days. So all the thinking that we have had over the years, we just discard it, we abandon it, and want to start afresh. Okay, so now, this is August. You cannot start farming until next year, February. So the harvest cannot come until August, September. So what are we going to do between now and September next year?
So, Prof, we don't know who the Minister of Agric is going to be, much as the screening is going on. So, to what extent can we be optimistic that this government said they want to do things differently?
Yeah.
And from what he's highlighted about the challenges in governance, we expect that they should know and then hit the ground running. How would you advise that they approach all of this?
Well, my partner here has done quite a lot of this subject. What government should pay attention to is not mere activity, but productivity. See, it's not that somebody go to an office and he report in the morning and come out and salary at the end of the month. It's not that you have a beautiful program, but because of our nature of agriculture, that is not irrigation-based in most cases, you cannot actually pump in money now and expect a result that will increase the welfare of the people. So it is not activity, but productivity. How productive? So I think there's need for sequencing the palliative that government is going to actually be bringing along into short, medium, long term, into seasonal activities. The one that will have immediate effect. People are suffering, and that is why they are allowed to be demonstrating now. Which one can actually resolve this problem that people will go back to go and work? Perhaps when they started moving, in terms of the buses that is going to be provided, that will be a very good one. But they have to eat as well. How would they be able to solve that?
And the states
and that is it.
have to have their own plans.
The states have to have their own plan. Up to the local government level. We must all be, our hands must be on deck to make sure that we revive this country. I'm not happy. Anytime I hear that important companies where I visited when I was in the CBN, they are now closing and going away.
That's black schools.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go to our colleagues in Lagos, because Labour is also on the neck of government saying, look, you have to do something real quick for the workers who are feeling the pinch. Everybody needs something at this point. Let's go to our colleagues in Lagos. They've got questions for gentlemen, both of you as well.
Yes, thank you, Chamberlain. Dr. Fakunda, from your explanation, if, bureaucracy will really is really the bane of agricultural development at the federal level, shouldn't it now be instructive that much of the funding for agriculture should now go to states where the land is domiciled, such that there can be more increase in agricultural development at the state level? That's for you now, Dr. Fakunda.
If the government were to say we don't have any land to cultivate, we're in Abuja, or we are marked money, once you produce and we audit what you have produced, there's a matching grant for you for various crops. You don't need to say which crop. Some states will just take only ornamental crops. Some will just take vegetables. Some will take whatever crop. But we list all the crops and give a notice. There's 100 billion naira to be given out. Please do whatever. By August next year, we'll come and monitor. We give you a matching grant. Then the states will compete. They will see how to claim the money. But this one where you give money to Ministry of Agric in Abuja, they will start traveling nationwide to see where is the land, where is the office, where is everything. Most of the money will go on all these travels from Abuja. I know my colleague will not like this thing, but we are speaking in national interest. We cannot keep throwing money in Abuja and just spread it like fertilizer. It wouldn't work. So matching grant scheme, give the function to the states, let the state cultivate the crop in their area, then audit what they have produced. Okay, now, these crops, you cannot grow anything, but you can start vegetables right away. You can start it right away. You don't have to start growing maize now because it's too late. So doesn't mean we're not going to do anything until you can grow maize and cassava. Where cassava you can grow.
But Dr. Fakunda,
so this strict marketing from Abuja cannot work. Thank you.
Dr. Fakunda, has NEC over the years, under different administrations, realized the importance of that need to increase funding to our states rather than domicile the bulk of the funding to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture?
Well, this goes to the heart of the way Nigeria is structured. All the federal government takes 50-something% of the revenue and they hold on to it. They want to give function to the states, but they still hold on to the money. Well, we have to be realistic. Until we are realistic, we are going to be just wasting resources and wasting time, and there will be no impact. That's just the truth. And that's the essence of restructuring the polity of the country. It is not political restructuring. We are talking about economic restructuring. Put the money where it can be utilized effectively. Federal government to monitor and reward good performance, not doing it by herself. That's the right approach.
Professor Aremu, let me come to you now. One of the high points of the president's speech, or rather, let's take it to his earlier one of the executive orders on declaration of emergency on food security. What's going to happen to that declaration if we consider that under the last administration there were reports that about 20 of the 33 silos had been concessioned due to poor harvests all year round. But in the declaration of a state of emergency of food security, the federal government is having us believe that, they would no longer tolerate seasonal farming. What the plan now is all year round farming. So if the silos are not quite there, to take up harvests from, all year round farming, what's going to happen to that declaration of state of emergency on food security?
Yeah, thank you, my sister. I think you have hit the nail on the head. See, you cannot say let there be this and there is unless you plan towards it. See, seasonal farming, that is the way in which we are used to. Dry season, rainy season, and my colleagues here have said that. But before you can actually make a planting agriculture to be all round, you have to make sure you pay attention to irrigation. Have we done that? That's the issue. Because if the land is not irrigated, I mean, I've gone to quite a lot of countries in which you buy corn at any time. It's not based on whether it's rainy season. So for us to be able to get out of this cannot be a short-run planning that will affect the welfare of the people now. But it can be part of the focus. And just as I said earlier on, it is not mere activity now, but productivity that we touch on the welfare of the masses. Which one do we do immediately? All-round farming, yeah, that's a good one, but can you do it now? Is it possible? Which one do we do now that will make people to start working? Labor will go back to their office. And then we shall start to do things. We need to prioritize, sequence the current situation so that Nigerian economy can be productive, not mere activity. So I mean, that would be my position towards it. Whatever program is announced under the palliative scheme, which the president actually talked about, there should be a sequence. Sequence to take care of the immediate need of the people. People need to move. The transportation cost is too expensive. I have some of my staff are now talking that they cannot come to office, and that's a genuine demand. What do I do? Right? Also, prices of food are rising. Are we going to continue to fast or go empty stomach and then be productive? No. So this is the kind of a thing. Let us look at the sequence of the palliative, adjust them correctly, take note of the one that have to be done quickly, and the one that will come later in terms of irrigated land, in terms of making sure that the state government that are to own the land, they're actually being given that enablement to be able to do the farming. And the monitoring aspect of it must be something that is solid.
Indeed, Professor Aremu, what can be released as part of the palliatives in the interim? That's what Labour is asking for. And that's, my next area of focus. But we must go to break now. When we return from this break, there'll be more questions from Lagos. Stay with Sunrise Daily. Welcome back. It's the Sunrise Daily on Channels Television, and the President's nationwide broadcast on the rollout of palliatives is high on our minds this morning. And we've still got Dr. Akin Fakunda, former Director, Planning, Research and Data, Bank National Agricultural Land Development, and Jonathan Aremu, Professor of International Economic Relations, former Assistant Director, Research, CBN, in our Abuja studios. I have more questions, but I'll yield the floor now to Kayode.
All right, let me start with Dr. Fakunda. And just to follow up to what you said about some of these agencies, government agencies, and what you think they will be up to really based on your experience. Are you then saying, if you say that a lot of them earn salaries, do nothing, are you saying that was also the case with NALDA as well? Because I imagine some of them will vehemently disagree with you on that point.
No, NALDA was abolished in 1999 by Obasanjo administration. But the plan then was to start plantation agriculture, and we implemented this for only 6 years. And at that time, we were able to manage 35,000 hectares. It stopped. We had 192 tractors. It disappeared. All the 500 hectares of land in each of the central districts in Nigeria were abandoned and is gone down the drain. If you are starting now, the essence of the president's speech is that we want to do plantation agriculture, not small farming. And if you want to do plantation agriculture, you have to do you have to acquire the land, you have to do everything properly, systematically. No matter how much if you throw the entire budget on agriculture, you will not get anything because you just have to clear land and you have to plant the crops, you have to have planting materials, you have to have experts to do soil testing, you have to have fertilizer the right one. There are so many things involved in farming, not just putting maize behind your yard in the house. It's not the same thing. Even the variety you have to grow for you to sell to the building is different from the one you're going to sell to food specialties for food products. It's different. All this thinking is not in the process now. But as my colleague said, we have to sequence what we want to do. Between now and December, you can give money to people who are growing vegetables and growing some crops that are resistant to weather. Then by March next year, you start land clearing. Do we have the tractors? We cannot use and cutlass. The Steyr company in Bauchi has folded up effectively. So if you're importing tractor for overseas, when do you make the order? When are you going to pay? When did they come to Nigeria? When do you ship it and nationwide? There's so much to do, but you have to think about it. And this government might just lay a foundation for the next, this matter of one year or 4 years plan. Government cannot plan by 1 year to do agriculture. As I said earlier on, Malaysia have been on this in 1956, and the agency is still on up till now. Go to their website and see what they have done since 1956. We have to take a long-term view of life in this country. Otherwise, we are just going to be starting something and we close it down, we'll start it and close it down.
Okay, let me take
That's
this.
the right thing to do.
Right, let me take this to Professor Remo on this, because I know he has the benefit of the international angle to this. And I mean, Nigeria is not an island. We're not in isolation. There are other countries that have gone through this. They have taken certain steps. I recall that Dr. Fakwoda was referring to the country now that was modeled after essentially learning from them. So there have been countries that have been in this situation. Is there any country we can learn from what they did and perhaps something that worked for them that we may be missing here in the mix that we can put in it?
Oh, thank you for that very wonderful question. There are so many countries you can learn from, so many. Look at some countries that they are totally located in arid areas. Argentina is a country, we have pampas of Argentina. And that is where we have quite a lot of wheat being produced. We only have desert in Argentina. In terms of productive of dairy product, Argentina is one of the world leading countries. And Nigeria, we have a lot of opportunity here, from the forest region to the savanna region in the north. So we can actually copy what we see in Argentina and bring it into the country. On dairy product alone, why not? In terms of farm product, which is either tuber or this one that are majorly done in the south, we have a lot of countries where we can learn from as well. Go very nearby to even South Africa. You see their agriculture. They are doing quite fine. I was able to go to one agricultural farm over there. I saw another one, even in Kenya, East Africa, just about 2 months ago. I was impressed. These are actually, in fact, they are combined harvesters. What do you mean? The same machine that will be harvesting the product, will process it, and what you'll be seeing is a grain being put in a bag. I mean, where are we so backward in this? America is a critical case. That's a developed country, and that's where I'm coming to it last. But look at America. There was a time America was overproducing food to the extent that they don't want to bring the price down. They buy from people and store it. After some time, when they can no longer buy, they go and dump it in the sea. That's because they don't want the farmer to suffer. Because if this product actually hit the market in that large volume, the price will crash. We are in the same world. Can we not learn from all this? I think that people We need to learn. But again, for the immediate solution, as my sister said before we go on break, what do we do now?
Okay.
Because people are not going to work.
Speaking about what to do, and as we begin winding down, Dr. Fakmoda, we've got Dr. Steve Ogino, who sends a response. He says, well, a lot is actually being done, and he's privileged to know. He says we have formed agro-geo cooperatives across the country. What needs to be done now is to activate them for production. We also established project monitoring, reporting, and remediation offices in 36 states and the FCT before the former CVN governor deactivated them. He says they can mobilize and deploy them again. So he says, contrary to what he said, there is actually something being done in the ministry.
It is just mobilized. They're not mobilized presently. I do. Many things are on in the system. People are thinking only that the centralized coordination is the problem. We cannot coordinate everything in one location. We need to really, we are suffocating.
That's part of what he said. They have offices in 36 states and the FCT.
What are they doing currently today? They said they need to be activated, means they are not doing anything yet. Is they true? I agree with what he said.
The CBN deactivated them, as he said.
So what? But we need a coherent, integrated plan in everything, not just even in agriculture. We need to really decide how we want to run the country. Everything will fall in place: education, health, agriculture. What's a school? A school in rural area. How can you now have a farm in a school, in a secondary school? Mayflower had farm those days. They fed all their students in the same school in the Kenya.
Okay. All right. So just one more thing, Prof.
Yeah.
I know that we haven't seen this plan of the federal government in terms of the blueprints and how they want to implement some of these things. But because if we did, we would have gotten your perspective as well. But on this part, where the government speaks about 125 billion allocated to support micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises and the informal sector, we know that the database is always a question. How do you think that they're going to successfully implement this so they will get the desired impact?
Thank you very much. Just give me one opportunity to make this contribution on agri. In terms of agri, there are 4 processes which government need to pay attention to: the input into agriculture, the production of it, the processing of it, so that it can be sellable not only in Nigeria but in other African markets, as well as the marketability. These are areas of investment: investment in input, investment in production, investment in processing, as well as investment in marketing. Now, back to the issue of the small and medium-scale enterprises. I said earlier on that the small and medium-scale enterprises in Nigeria now, there's quite a lot of association, NASME, National Association of Small and Medium-Scale Enterprises, right? 2, NASI. That's another.
Most industry.
Yes.
NASI.
Yes. Then we have SMEDA. NASIMA equally have some members with them. And just around November last year, all these associations met and they have an umbrella institution under them. So to me, this money they are talking about should not go to all these small they are talking about without actually accessing the umbrella organization that know the members. Let everyone that wanted to access it register and let them be known. So that will not be like the anchor project of the CBN in which money went away. Now what you can see is padded rice that were put on the way to airport so that you can see. And the thing disappeared. The second day, the price of rice started going up.
All right, gentlemen, we have to thank both of you for coming on. Dr. Akin Fakmoda, former Director of Planning, Research and Data Bank for National Agricultural Land Development Authority, NALDA, as well as Jonathan Aremu, Professor of International Economic Relations, former Acting Assistant Director of Research for the CBN. Thank you both for coming on today.